going to talk first about Rick Gates and Manafort, the guy he worked for, and then Manafort was part of Trump's team when he took over the presidency. Rick Gates has been testifying for a few days against Manafort. Now, Rick Gates worked for Manafort, but he turned state's evidence hoping he won't go to jail. And he's been talking against Manafort, the guy he worked for. So the question is, can you believe Rick Gates? They brought up the fact he had a girlfriend in London, that he had her in a hotel for 5 months a while ago. Then they tried, he had 4 other girlfriends. But
Dang.
So what?
Is he related to Bill Gates?
He still testified that that he went over to these foreign countries for Manafort to set up bank accounts.
I'll have to call you back.
To set up these bank accounts in these foreign countries. Now, that might seem like it's a real simple item. Like you can just call a bank in a foreign country and say, I want to open up a bank account, and they say, fine, we'll send you a card to fill out, and you send us a check to open the account. It doesn't work like that. They won't set up nothing for you. In fact, they won't even hardly do it in the United States. I've been through this. But you try to call a foreign country and set up an account, they will tell you the only way you're going to get an account in this bank is you have to be here, and we want to be looking at you. We want to be looking at you in this country. So now Manafort had said in some of his news items that in 2016 he was broke, completely busted. Now all of a sudden he's come up with a lot of money, and they arrested him lately with all this money in these different banks, a lot of them around the world. And then supposedly Rick Gates, his right-hand man, would go and take trips to these different countries where he had the bank accounts. But the way I see it, Manafort's going to get some time, and he's going to get a lot of time because Rick Gates has sort of really pulled the plug on him. And supposedly they've talked to Rick Gates 3 times. They got his testimony down. The only bad thing about his testimony, they say, is the girlfriend in London. He had her in an apartment, and then he had 4 other girlfriends, but so what? He's still come up with a lot of bad evidence against Manafort. And between you and me, I think the only way Manafort is going to get out of this without receiving a lot of court time would be to start talking. Naturally, they're in the middle of the trial now, and Rick Gates has been testifying for 3 days. They'll call Manafort next if he wants to testify. If he doesn't testify, then he can sit down. And then when they ask him to put in his case, he doesn't have to do nothing. He can just sit there. But if he's going to go on what Rick Gates has been testifying to for 3 days, in my opinion, he's going to do a lot of time. Now, I don't know what they promised Rick Gates for turning state's evidence and testifying against Manafort, but whatever they did, Gates will get it. He's done what he's supposed to do. Now, I think the only way Manafort's going to stay out of jail or doing a long term, he's going to come up with some names and some people. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the same thing they tell all these people. What do you know about so-and-so? What have they done wrong? One thing about these accounts, though, that you can learn if you start calling, is they don't want you to put 1 nickel in these different banks around the world unless you're there standing in front of them, open the account, they can look at you, take your picture, look at your driver's license, and then you give them the money. Now, there are a lot of people that Manafort, and I'm not saying he's done anything wrong, but I assume there are a lot of people that Manafort knows that would be glad to give him money to put in the accounts over there once he set them up. Because they're not going to go over there. They're not going to take these long trips to these different banks around the world. And they would trust him. They would say, here's 500,000, 400, whatever. Go ahead and put it in that account in that bank, and then we'll just mark it that 500 of that money is mine. Now the question is, where did they get that money? You know, who are these people? Is some of that money tax-free money? Is it a way trying to clean up illegal money? I don't know. But I'm thinking, if Manafort's going to get out of going to jail, he's going to have to come up with some testimony like that. That some of this money came from different people. He sent it to these banks around the world after he went around and to the banks and set up the accounts, or Rick Gates went his number one man. And then there are people that are trying to clean money every day. And one way to do it is to hand it to him. He should it to that account. And right away, when it goes in that bank, it's clean as far as I'm concerned, even though you didn't pay tax on it yet. And another thing, if Manafort was broke in 2016, I assume all this money went in the bank in 17. And if it did, the money went in 17, the taxes aren't even due on it yet. I mean, you have till April 15th, and then you can extend till August 5th, or you can get another extension and pay the tax on all this money that he has in these accounts. Because I assume if he was completely broke in 16, then there were no money in the accounts. Unless he put money in it years before, and they're going to go back to those time periods. But if they go back to 17, I don't know if the government's been beat out any money, because you still have time to file your tax returns. And I don't know. I got a feeling, though, that if Manafort wants to start talking, and I don't know if it's true or not, but if some of that money belonged to some other people that he knew, and he was helping them clean that money, because it didn't have tax paid on it. I don't know where it's from, and this is just a guess. I don't know how it'll come out in the trial, but for Manafort to stay out of prison, in my opinion, at this point of the game, his lawyer's going to have to slow this thing down and try to get a week absence, or in that week, he's got to do some talking to the feds. He's got to do a lot of talking. If he just goes on what Rick Gates testified to the last 3 days, in my opinion, he's going to jail for a long time. That's all we have today. Thank you.